Hello, Conquerors, and welcome back to another CEO Conquersation. We have CEO Conversations in the Conquer Network with fabulous women who I have met on my entrepreneurial journey. Many of the women that I interview and spotlight and talk about, they are women that I've met through networking, through programs, through community. So I can't emphasize how important that is, which is one of the reasons why I founded and created the Conquer Network. The Conquer Network is an online community that supports women entrepreneurs online in building mental wealth for business. My name is Seneca Williams. You can also find me as Ask Coach Sen on social media. And I'm happy that you're joining me today because the CEO Conversations are talking about the CEO behind the business. Every CEO that I've ever met has a Conquer story, something that they've been challenged with, that they overcame, that they conquered. And they have not only tips on their business or from their business, but also on how you too, as an entrepreneur, can conquer the challenges that you experience it as a CEO. So it's not always easy, but we want to keep it real in the Conquer Network. We want to keep it real with you. We want you to understand that you are not alone with the thoughts that come up and the doubt and all that stuff. I know that I wasn't the only one when I met all these fabulous women and they were sharing with me behind the scenes stuff. So that's why we're here today. So I have someone that I met a couple years ago. She is super awesome and inspiring. And that's why the name of her company is Inspiring Joy. And her name is Joy Cook. She also has these awesome joy drops that I used to enjoy on her Instagram. So, who is Joy Cook? She is a life strategist. And if you've ever heard her speak, she says she takes you from extraordinary to extraordinary. I love that. When I heard that the first time, I was like, ooh, I want to be extraordinary. I don't want to be extraordinary. So she is our life strategist. And today we're talking about, do you have strategies for life? And let me just go ahead and read a little bit about what she does. She serves her clients by exploring the possibilities, strategies, and solutions to reset and enhance wellness, in well-being, in your finances, in your relationships, and to create a whole life success. When you are an entrepreneur, you cannot just focus on the hustle and grind. You have to be focusing on your relationships, on strategies for your whole life. So let's welcome to our CEO Conversation, Joy Cook of Inspiring Joy. Welcome.
Hello. It's good to be here.
I'm glad to have you here. So tell the people a little bit about Inspiring Joy, who that's for, what do you do when you are inspiring and how you're inspiring.
So first, I am Joy Cook, and I am the owner and founder of Inspiring Joy Inc., as well as another spinoff of inspiringjoy.org, which is a nonprofit, where it all started. However, like to bring you kind of close into what I do, who I do it for, and why I do it. So the first thing is that I'm a coach, but I'm not a coach because this is a profession that I chose. I'm a coach because literally it is in the fiber and beings of who I am as a person. And when we're on this journey called life, we find ourselves in places where we realize the alignment of life happens, and we realize our purpose, our path, our progress, our pain, and our possibilities, and how it all comes together. So this brought me to this journey. So as a life strategist and success coach, and I pull that in because it's not just about having the strategies, it's all about creating the success. And when you create the success, you're creating the things that you want out of life, because we are not just part of creation, we are creators, and we have the ability to create the life that we want. However, there are so many things that get in the way and that block us from that. But the people who I serve, so I serve forward-thinking, ambitious men and women who are business owners, who are educators, who are business professionals, entrepreneurs, and are ready to take their life from ordinary to extraordinary. And three pillars that I focus on in my coaching business, in my coaching consulting business, is well-being, finances, and relationships, which I believe are three vital parts in any person's journey, No matter who you are, no matter where you are, no matter what's happening in life, those three pillars are very important.
Absolutely. What I love about your brand and what you are helping people to do is you're actually helping people to be intentional about the life that they want. So many of us, and we know people like this, and it might have even been us. I know at one point in life I was on autopilot.
It was
I
me too.
wasn't, yeah, I was not intentional. I was just going through the motions. You're supposed to
Mm-hmm.
go to school, get a job, raise a family, just do the things. And then you're like, why is my life like this? Why do I feel like I'm on a hamster wheel?
Yeah, and it's so important that you say that. So one of my personal mantras that I live by is be intentional because anything is possible. I am a true believer of possibility, and possibility comes with intention though. And the thing is that we're either going to be um intentional purposefully, or there's going to be involuntary way of the intention that's going to be created for you, right? So when you are intentional, you also become actionable, and it's the actionable part that gets you to the possibilities, and the possibilities open you up for opportunities. So that intention part is literally everything, because we as humans have an untapped potential and capacity to be, to create, to do, and to have. However, the magic key is the intention.
Absolutely. So here we are at the part that I love, because someone tuned in is probably listening to you and they're like, oh, that sister, she has it together. I could never be that because, she's perfect and she got all together and all well packaged and well branded and all this stuff. And I probably shouldn't even try being, a business owner or entrepreneur. But what I tell people is every CEO I've met, every entrepreneur I've met has a conquer story. We didn't wake up like this. And those people who are saying they woke up like that, I don't know what to say about that.
Yeah.
What is your conquer story?
So, Sen, my conquer story has so many different chapters to it. And it's the chapters that collectively got me to this conquer place. I want to say that my journey started out as a young mother. I was a young mother and a young wife, both at 18 years old. I had a kid and I was married at 18. So I faced this world of this unknown, this world of jumping into going from this childhood to now someone's mother and someone's wife and being in this place. And that basically kind of my um shifted my perspective, where all of my friends, they were at college, they were having fun, going to parties. I was going to work. I was being a mother. I was being a wife. I was going to school at night, which online schooling back then wasn't a thing. And like, it's funny, like now it's now look where we are. But I was determined, like, and sometimes there's just things that we are exposed to. So one thing that I believe is that we can only expand to the extent of which we're exposed, right? So while we're on this journey, what you're being exposed to will create the pathway and the steps for you to go. So I was exposed to just wanting to do and be more, and I was committed to not to be a statistic. Way back in those days, which was the late 90s, I guess it was late 90s. Teen moms were on a rise and all these things. And however, there was this disparaging statistics around teen moms. And I was like, that's not going to be me. So I was committed to being a professional, being educated, making sure I provided for my family, making sure I was an example, and making sure I didn't fall into that realm. However, that put me to corporate America. So professionally and from my background, I'm an accountant, been doing that, was in that line of work for 20 plus years. And I did the same thing that you said, where we just go along in life and we go to school, we get a job, and we work, which I call falling into the golden handcuffs, right? I fell into the golden handcuffs. The golden handcuffs is having a paycheck every 2 weeks, having benefits, having stability, and trying to figure life out but wanting to have that comfort. And I found myself in that place. However, there was also something within me that was like, there's something more that I'm here for. I just don't know what it is. I went through divorce after being married for 7 years, which was an opening to a new pathway. I was determined that wasn't going to need anybody, right? I wasn't going to be a failure. I was going to be successful. I wasn't going to be a statistic. I was going to make it happen for myself, not just for myself, but for my kids, because I had to be a, a role model for them to know that you'll face hard times. There'll be some dark moments. The road will get rocky, but you have everything within you to make it through. However, don't just depend on yourself to make it through. That's why we have community and why it's so important to connect with people like you and other people other women that's in entrepreneurship and other women that's driven, because that's where our power comes from. So it's being connected in those places that help. So take you along my journey. I was working at this company. It was a government contracting company, and I was the county manager there, kind of like the second hand of small business, second hand to like the CEO. And I did a lot of things, wore a lot of hats when I was there, from operations to HR to accounting to contracts to everything, right? Anyway, he overbooked himself for a conference. And he said to me, I spent a lot of money on this conference. I can't make it. Can you go for me? Soak up whatever you can, bring it back. I just don't want to waste my money on the conference. Sure, I'm down for it. One, like I said, I'm a single mom, 3 kids. At this point, I've never been to California in my life. I could probably count on one hand how many times I've been on an airplane. So this experience was about the exposure. I go to California to this conference, and this conference literally was the thing that changed my life. Not in the moment, it just planted the seed, right? Because I go to this conference and I'm hearing all these things about personal development, professional development, financial literacy, all these things about success. And as I mentioned to you, this was a conference that the CEO of the business, and this was a multi-million-dollar business. The CEO of the business was signed up to go to, which means I'm in a room with, it was probably between 700, 800 people, entrepreneurs, business owners making millions of dollars, right? And here I am, just a staff accountant at this company, and I felt intimidated. I felt like shocked. And this sign here, I keep this everywhere I am, and you probably can't see it, but it says, I belong everywhere I am. And when we can really take hold of knowing that wherever you are, you belong everywhere you are, and there was a purpose, and there is a reason why we are in certain places. So I get to that at that place, I'm getting exposed to so many things. These nuggets were dropped in. However, the other thing that was also a seed that was planted, but also a disappointment, is, so I'm a native of Washington, D.C., which has a high population of minorities in Washington, D.C. That do well, a disparity. There's some that do well and there's some that don't, right? And it's a big mix. But while I'm there, I look around the room. I'm used to seeing tons of African American and brown and Black people, people of color. When I'm there, I could probably count on 2 hands in the room of 700, 800 people, how many people of color were there. And I was like, this is good information. This is meaty. This is fulfilling. Why isn't this being shared in our communities? How come I've never been exposed to this? How come I don't know this? How come the support that I see here, and I'm saying support, like people are networking, people are talking, people are engaging. You can feel the energy in the room of people wanting to see other people win, people wanting to connect and have that conquer energy to be in the place to really win. And I'm like, how come this isn't in the places where I am? And it had me question. Anyway, I go back home. Oh, while I was also there was this guy who was one of the keynote speakers. I end up speaking to him over one of the breaks. And he asked about my story. I'm sharing my story with him. And he knows that I'm a single mom, kids, blah, 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 working. He says, you should write a blog. Mind you, this is 10 plus years ago, where blogs were just beginning. And he told me that. However, I'm in a space where I'm not surrounded by people who know who people who are doing this. I'm not exposed to the information. So I didn't know what to do with that information. I didn't know where to start. I didn't know what to do. So I felt lost. I felt unsupported. I felt like I don't know. Like it sounds great. How do I do it? I don't know how to do it. So guess what I did? What most people do.
What'd you do?
Nothing.
So you just said so much stuff and I was trying to collect it in my mind, all the things you were saying. You had an opportunity in front of you and you soaked it up. You soaked it up. You listened. Now, in the moment, you didn't know what to do with what you were soaking up. So you didn't do anything. And that's the hump that most people don't know how to get over. So how did you do that? What happened after?
So what happened next is I said the seed was planted, right? So once you're exposed to something or once you know something, you can't unknow something, right? Like once you know, it's like, what do you do with it? And so I began to buy books. I began to read. I began to do workshops. I began to do webinars. I will begin to do classes. I began to invest in myself. However, I did it in little increments starting. And then as life kind of occurred for me, I stepped out and I started two businesses. So I had one, which was my consulting business, because I did consulting, accounting and business operations and things like that for small business owners. So I started my own consulting to do that on the side. And I also started a nonprofit. So while my kids are growing up, I'm very active in their lives. Again, I want to be a role model. I want to be that. I began to coach lacrosse and basketball at their school and like be very active. I was very active in their school. So the kids knew me, the teachers knew me, the administration knew me. I was asked to, as I was coaching basketball, I was asked to coach lacrosse. And I coached lacrosse. I knew nothing about lacrosse. It just wasn't a sport that we played when I was growing up, and it wasn't a sport that I was exposed to. But I got on the University of YouTube and I taught myself all about lacrosse and I became the coach. While I'm the coach and I'm coaching a girls lacrosse team, I'm also integrating the boys because I believe that there is power in males and females collectively working together. As I began to coach, I began to see this yearning or this need for these young people who wanted more. They wanted to be better. They wanted to be held accountable. They wanted someone to care. They wanted to excel. They wanted to go beyond the statistics, but also in an environment where that support wasn't there. So I started this nonprofit organization, and the nonprofit organization was to basically do life coaching with young adults, to teach life success skills, financial literacy, personal and professional development to young adults ages 15 to 24. And it was something that was important to me because this is what I wish I had when I was their age, right? I wish I had more of that impart of information and that care and that concern to help guide the path a little bit just better. So I started that. As I started getting into that, doing the coaching with young adults, doing my consulting business, I started working with a branding business coach. Life-changing, right? And again, these are like little steps I'm taking to investment. Let me just say investment is so important. Pay the money for the education, pay the money for the courses, pay the money to elevate, pay the money to get yourself from ordinary to extraordinary. So I paid the money for this business coach who then said, hey, this is very commendable what you're doing. I love it. It's a nonprofit. Do you really want to make this your full-time? Like you want to make this your living? I was like, yeah, like this, I know this is what I want to do. And she was like, well, what you're providing and what you're doing, everybody can use it. Why not scale to do it for everybody, to do it for adults? Because adults can benefit from this information. I just didn't think about it, or maybe I limited myself and I had these thoughts of I couldn't do that. Who am I? The imposter syndrome. Who am I to do that? Like, I'm an accountant, like, by profession. How can I transition into this space to help people? Then it was like, duh, educate yourself, go the extra mile, get training, get education, get certification, invest the time, invest the money. So I began to grow my business separate from the nonprofit to provide services to adults, coaching to adults. And it was coaching in a way of how do you continue to evolve personally, to elevate professionally and financially, to create whole life success? And it brought me to the place where I am today. And that's what I literally, if I could wake up every day for the rest of my life and just serve and just be in this place, and I see other people being inspired, I just don't work with people who I can inspire. My hope is to, and my commitment is to work with people who also inspire me, right? Like it's a mutually beneficial relationship, because when I see people pushing and working and excelling and conquering, that gives me like this, like, oh yes, like let's all do it. So yeah.
Yeah. So on the journey, I heard absorb information, like just soak up the opportunities, the information. Then whatever you don't know, right? Because this is where most people get stuck forever. I don't know how to do that. I'm like, okay, so figure it out. I remember someone asking me that one time, like in a comment on social media. They were like, how do we have access or know these things when it's not available to us? Like what you're saying, that it's not in your community. You didn't grow up with it. Your parents didn't share it with you. You have to go out and go look for it.
We are living in 2021. The World Wide Web has everything there. We can no longer use the excuse of, I didn't know, I couldn't, I can't, because the information is out there. It goes back to intention and being actionable. You have to be intentional about your steps. And then you just can't be intentional. You then have to take action to make it work. Everybody that knows something, no matter who they are, they started at some point. And everything that we do and everything that we can learn and how we can grow, guess where the answers are located?
Mm-hmm.
In the middle of a book, in the middle of words, in the middle of pages. Like all of these people that are your influencers, that are your celebrities, or that are your icons, they learned, and they had to learn just like you. And you can do the same thing as them when you're actionable and when you're intentional and when you're building that network and those connections of people who are going the way that you want to go. It's about life strategies, right? Like that's, and when we bring this all together, it's like the strategies to help you get what you want. One, do you know what you want? Right? And the thing is, a lot of people aren't clear. A lot of people want what their parents wanted for them. They want what the next door neighbor has. They want what they see on TV or in entertainment. They want all these things. But it's like, clear your plate, right? Clear your canvas. Really, when you go with deep inside yourself, you know the things you want. Sometimes you're just as scared to say it because you're not sure if it's possible for you. Sometimes you're scared to hold tight to it because there's all these limitations of what people in your communities maybe haven't done, or other people you haven't seen do this, or you're surrounded by toxic or dysfunction that you begin to make normal in your own life. And it blocks you from getting the things that you really want out of life. So really, it's like, how can we go deep and figure out, what do you want? Mm-hmm. Don't limit yourself. If you want the world, say you want the world. Let's put things in place to get it. Again, intention and being actionable in order to create it.
Okay. Be clear on what you want. Be intentional. Be actionable. Life strategies. Something you just said was, some people are afraid to say what they truly want and go after it. But you said that you have that pink card behind you. What does it say? The pink card?
It says, I belong everywhere I am.
Exactly. You belong everywhere you are. So this is important, and this is the bridge, and I think the missing part for people. Just because you want to be a millionaire doesn't mean that you have to already be, wealthy to be a millionaire. It's like this disconnect for some people that for me to get there, I have to already know everything, or I have to already be everything, or I have to be brave already, or be courageous already. That's why one of the reasons why I have the Conquer Network. It's like, no, you have to conquer your fear and you have to conquer your challenges to get there. It's
And
okay
you have
not to know everything.
Yeah, and the most important thing is, like, and I talk about inspiring joy stands for inspiring the journey of you. It's all about the journey. All of us are on this journey called life. And the thing is, the way that everybody else got there and the way that you can get there is simple. Start where you are. Wherever you are, that's your starting space. No judgment. Don't beat yourself up. Don't give excuses. Start where you are. Little steps make progress, right? Don't discount the little steps. Little steps make progress. So start where you are.
Start where you are, and you are where you belong right now.
Are where you
I
belong.
cannot stress that
Yeah.
enough for people. They'll be like, "Oh, I want to start my business, but my Instagram doesn't look like this person, and they got it going." And I'm like, you cannot compare yourself to where someone is 10 years in, 15, 20 years in. You
That's their
can't do
chapter
that.
10, and you in your
Right,
chapter 1.
right,
You can't compare. You
right.
can't
Read
compare.
your book. You're exactly where you need to be right now. Sometimes I have to remind myself of that
Yeah.
too.
Look, I
So,
do. I do too. I'm like, you know what? And that's why I have this reminder here, right? This reminder is, you know what? I belong everywhere I am. Right now, I belong here because there's a lesson that needs to be learned. There's growth that needs to take place. There's personal evolving that needs to transpire. And it has to transpire here in order for me to appreciate the next level. In order for me to get the elevation in life that I really want, I have to master this part before I get to the next part. It's almost like giving an 8-year-old clippers a shave.
no,
Yeah.
you know why I have a short haircut is I asked my daughter to trim my hair last year. But you know what? I rock and roll with things. So I was like, okay,
Yeah.
well, now I'm gonna just have a short haircut now. But that's how that actually happened.
And I love
So
it. I love it.
I just roll with it. And I learned to do that over time because I probably would have been devastated at 23 or something. I'd be like,
But these are something that you just said is so important, right, Sin? Is you said I probably would have been devastated at 23.
Mm-hmm.
However, if you had the support, coaching, the environment, the accountability at 23 to say, hey, it's cut short. Guess what? It's hair and it grows, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like, how can we turn this around to not see the problems, but to see the solutions,
Mm-hmm.
right? Like, what is it? What is it that you want? How do you want your hair? Do you want it long or do you want it a certain way? It takes time, baby. It takes time for it to grow. No different than anything in our lives. We just don't wake up and voila, life gives us everything that we want. It takes time for that seed to be planted. It takes time to grow. It takes time to manifest. It takes time to really pour itself because there's so much evolving going around in so many different places simultaneously. And when you can be in that place, when you're supported, when you have accountability, when you have someone that can be a sounding board for you, that can provide support, it just takes some of the weight off of the shoulders and it gives you this encouragement. And sometimes you have to plug your plug into somebody else's confidence, somebody else's success, somebody else's dreams until you have enough charge on your own to go out there and do it and be it and have it.
Okay, that's another life strategy. Plug into other people's
Oh,
confidence.
yes.
I love
Yeah.
it. And get yourself support, get a coach. I wished I had a coach when I was younger, people that build me up and build my mental wealth. That's why I talk about mental wealth so often is because it's beyond the mental health disorder. It's now, okay, how can you take your mind to a next level? And sometimes it's like you said, from plugging into others who have the mental wealth that you want to have. So this leads me to the next thing. This is a plug for you. Right now, I said earlier on that you do these joy drops on Instagram, but right now you're doing a series, and I think it's leading into something else, which is about money. And I know one of the topics, I remember it was budget got a big old butt. You know, if you're an 80s baby, you know where that comes from.
If you're an 80s baby, you know that song. Yes. Yes. So, what I've been doing is I wanted to focus again. Three pillars of my coaching is well-being, finances, and relationships. And I wanted to really spend some time on focusing on talking about money and how that plays a part in our lives. So, I've been doing spending March talking about money. I've been doing Money March Mondays. It's a little tongue twister. I got to think about it sometimes. Money March Mondays, where I'm just sharing information. Again, it's about information and it's about adding value and helping people to think. I never want anybody to think like I think or think like anybody else think. But the most important thing is that we're thinking, right? The most important thing is that we're helping our minds to build this growth and this momentum so we can grow and so we can evolve and so we can elevate. So I'm doing these Money March Mondays. And this Monday coming up is going to be Budget Got a Big O, but oh yeah, right. It's going to be super exciting. Some of the other topics, again, they're on my Instagram page of the topics that I've done this far. And so, in addition to that, on March the 31st, I'm going to be doing a money reset workshop, and this is all about resetting your mindset to reset your money, to rebuild the path to create the life you want. Simply. And the thing that's important, this isn't about people who don't have money, or this is not only for people who don't have money, people who want to improve their money position, and people who have money. We all, as an accountant, and coming from this perspective of, I don't come from this just sharing it because I got it. This is like years of experience from businesses to all types of things of seeing is that we need to consistently reset. We need to consistently, and resetting is really taking a step back, exploring, figuring out, being clear about our goals, being clear about what we want, being clear about where we're trying to get to. And again, going back to strategies, it's all about strategies. How do we put strategies in place to get the solutions that we want to create whole life success, right? So if this workshop is going to be about how to reset our mindset, to reset our money, to rebuild. And the thing is that most times in life, we don't have money problems. We have money management problems. And money management problems come from money mindset problems, right? So, how do we reconstruct that, reframe that so money begins to work for us, not us working for it?
Wonderfully stated. Now, will you leave our listeners, our conquerors, with a conquer prompt? It could be a quote or something that you want them to take away from today, and how they can get in touch with you so that they can work with you.
Sure. So I'm going to give my contact information first, which is I can be reached on all social media platforms at Inspiring Joy Inc. INC. That's on Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, LinkedIn, and any of those. I can also be found at Joy S. Cook. If you can't find it by Inspiring Joy Inc., but you should be able to. My website is inspiringjoyinc.com. I can be reached on there as well. I'm always available for conversations just because I believe there's power in conversations. And I'm not here to sell you or convince you to live better or be better. I'm just here when you're ready, right? Like, I'm never going to convince you to live a better life. You have to make that choice yourself, right? And when you're ready to make that choice and decision, joy will appear, right? Like, so that's where I can be reached. And one thing that I want to leave the Conqueror Network with is that life is not here just to allow it to pass by. We are all part of this awesome puzzle called life, and we are all contributors to it. And each of us has the capacity and ability to do and be amazing, and to also live life fully, abundantly, and wholly, and really have it be an enjoyable experience. So I just want to leave people with tapping into all that's available and all that's possible, because when you're intentional, anything is possible.
Thank you so much for that. See, she got some great joy drops for us, and that was a beautiful conquer prompt. I look forward to having you back in the network and sharing with us and probably teaching us some stuff as well because this is not a one and done. I believe in the journey. We're all part of this journey, and there's always more to learn. So thank you again, Joy, for joining us today at the CEO Conquersation.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you all. For those of you who joined, I want you to understand something. We often see the glamorous side of entrepreneurship. We hear about entrepreneurs doing the thing. We see their brands. We see them, all over the place. And we think to ourselves, they have it all together. And that can't be me. And that's why I thought it was so important for me to do this series, CEO Conversations. Also, because when I have conversations with the wonderful women entrepreneurs that I know, they all have an amazing conquer story. And they don't have to share that publicly, right? They don't have to tell you anything. They could just show up like they woke up like this. But they have taken the time to share with us, kind of pouring into you so you know that it is possible for you to, and you can figure out how to conquer whatever your calling is in your life and in your business. So I hope that you will join us for more of these CEO conversations. And if you're watching this on the replay, do go ahead and comment if you had an aha moment. If you want to support Joy or any of the speakers on here, definitely go ahead and shout them out and let us know how you're liking these CEO conversations, and maybe even suggest a topic. If you're not following the Conquer Network, you can find us on Instagram, on LinkedIn, Facebook, and on YouTube. So I look forward to seeing you all next time. I'm Seneca Williams, also as Coach Sen. Take care, peace, and blessings.